Chapter 7: Thinking and Intelligence. Now that we've explored how humans learn from experience in Chapter 6, we turn to the next big question. How do we use what we've learned? Learning provides us with knowledge and skills, but thinking allows us to apply that knowledge to solve problems, make decisions, and adapt to new situations. Intelligence, in turn, reflects the capacity to use these mental abilities effectively. This chapter takes us deep into the processes of thinking, reasoning, decision-making, and the nature of intelligence. It also explores how psychologists have attempted to measure intelligence and how creativity and emotional skills broaden our understanding of human ability. Thinking and problem solving. At its core, thinking is the mental manipulation of information. Our minds use concepts, images, schemas, and rules to process and organize the world. Concepts, in particular, are powerful. They allow us to group similar things together. For instance, the concept of dog helps us recognize many different breeds as belonging to one category. Without concepts, every new object would feel completely unique, and we would struggle to make sense of the world. Problem solving is one of the most important functions of thinking. Psychologists have identified several strategies people use to solve problems. Algorithms are step-by-step procedures that guarantee a solution, like following a recipe or solving a math problem with a formula. Algorithms are reliable but can be time-consuming. Heuristics are mental shortcuts or rules of thumb that allow us to make quick judgments. For example, look for food in the refrigerated section. Heuristics save time but can lead to errors. Trial and error is a basic method, trying different approaches until something works. It's inefficient but useful when choices are limited. Insight refers to sudden realizations, those aha moments when a solution comes to mind all at once. But problem solving has obstacles. Functional fixedness keeps us from seeing alternative uses for objects. A paperclip could pick a lock, but if we're fixated on its usual use, we might miss that solution. Mental sets make us repeat old strategies that worked before, even if they don't apply to the new situation. These challenges remind us that while human thinking is flexible, it is not perfect. Decision-making and cognitive biases. Thinking is not only about solving problems, it's also about making decisions. Every day, we make choices ranging from the trivial to the life-changing. But psychologists have found that decision-making is subject to cognitive biases that systematically affect our judgments. The availability heuristic makes us judge the likelihood of an event based on how easily examples come to mind. If you recently read about a shark attack, you may overestimate the danger of swimming, even though the risk is extremely low. The representativeness heuristic leads us to make judgments based on stereotypes. For instance, we might assume someone who is quiet and bookish must be a librarian, ignoring the fact that there are far more farmers than librarians. Confirmation bias causes us to seek evidence that supports our beliefs, while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. Hindsight bias tricks us into believing after the fact that we knew it all along. These biases highlight that while humans are skilled thinkers, we are not always rational. Our mental shortcuts often help, but they can also mislead us. Language and thought. An important part of thinking is language. Language allows us to communicate ideas, store knowledge, and share culture across generations. It is made up of phonemes, basic sounds, morphemes, smallest units of meaning, syntax, rules for combining words, and semantics, the meaning behind words. The relationship between language and thought has long fascinated psychologists. The linguistic relativity hypothesis, also known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, suggests that the language we speak influences how we think. For example, cultures with many words for snow may perceive and categorize snow more precisely than cultures with fewer terms. While language does not entirely determine thought, it clearly shapes how we conceptualize and interpret the world. Theories of intelligence. Now we turn to intelligence, a concept that has inspired both great insights and deep controversies. Intelligence refers to the ability to learn, reason, solve problems, and adapt to new situations. But is intelligence a single general ability, or is it made up of many independent skills? Psychologists have proposed several theories. Charles Spearman argued for a single general intelligence, or G factor, underlying all abilities. According to him, people who do well in one domain tend to do well in others. Gardner challenged this with his theory of multiple intelligences: linguistic, logical, mathematical, musical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. This theory broadened the definition of intelligence to include artistic, social, and emotional strengths. Robert Sternberg offered the triarchic theory of intelligence, identifying three types: analytical, problem-solving, creative, dealing with new situations, and practical, common sense, street smarts. More recently, psychologists have emphasized emotional intelligence, the ability to perceive, understand, manage, and use emotions effectively. Emotional intelligence has been linked to leadership, relationships, and stress management. Measuring intelligence. The measurement of intelligence began in the early 20th century with Alfred Binet, who created a test to identify school children needing extra help. His work led to the development of the modern IQ test, originally calculated as mental age divided by chronological age multiplied by 100. Today, IQ tests are standardized so that the average score is 100, with most people falling between 85 and 115. IQ tests remain useful predictors of academic performance, but they have been criticized for cultural bias and for focusing too narrowly on specific cognitive skills. Intelligence is broader than what any single test can measure: creativity and problem solving. Alongside intelligence is creativity, the ability to generate ideas that are both novel and valuable. Creativity often requires divergent thinking, producing many possible solutions, as opposed to convergent thinking, which focuses on finding one correct answer. Creativity reminds us that intelligence is not only about logic and reasoning, it's also about imagination, flexibility, and the courage to think differently. Closing thoughts. Chapter 7 shows us that thinking and intelligence are at the heart of what it means to be human. Thinking allows us to solve problems, make decisions, and plan for the future, but it also reveals our limits, biases, mental shortcuts, and errors that shape how we see the world. Intelligence, meanwhile, is not a single thing, but a rich set of abilities, including logic, creativity, practical skill, and emotional understanding. Ultimately, this chapter teaches us that our minds are both powerful and imperfect. We are capable of reasoning, innovation, and creativity, yet also vulnerable to bias and error. Recognizing both our strengths and limitations is the first step to becoming wiser thinkers.